Okay, Unit 10, Lecture 1A. We're going to talk about the Cold War now. Get sorry, I'll have to do in this unit. This should take 4 or 5 lectures. So in 1945, near the end of World War II, the Allies founded the United Nations, all right, as an international organization to promote world peace and progress. The UN replaced the League of Nations as a means for the world's nations to try to prevent future global wars. All right, so the UN, just like the League of Nations, was a way to keep the peace. Okay, so the UN, well, what's different this time is the U.S. immediately joins the United Nations. After World War II, the people of the U.S. believe we have a role in the world and an important role in maintaining the peace. So it's a much different attitude than we had after World War I, where we wanted to go back to isolationism and we refused to join the League of Nations. So again, right after World War II, we formed the UN. We occupied Japan after its surrender in August 1945. Okay, so we're going to occupy Japan under our direction. Japan will adopt a democratic form of government. They will write a constitution based on ours. They'll resume self-government, which is governing themselves, and become, after some time, a very strong ally and friend of the United States. At the end of World War II, Europe lay in ruins. All right, it was trashed. Soviet forces are going to occupy most of Eastern and Central Europe, while the Allied forces, American, British, and French, are going to occupy Western Europe. And we'll see a division. Let me see if I can find it here. This map, I want you to just take a quick look at it. You should be able to see between East and West, and that line eventually will become very heavily fortified and armed, and Winston Churchill will refer to it, and know this, Winston Churchill will refer to it as an Iron Curtain having fallen across Europe. All right, so in a few years, West Germany will become democratic and resume self-government. East Germany will remain under the domination of the Soviet Union and adopt a communist form of government, which I don't like using that term, but communism is an economic system. But the Communist Party rules in the East, okay, and it's a one-party system with totalitarian rule. Okay, the German capital of Berlin is also going to be divided between East and West, and Berlin itself, the city, lies in East Germany. So West Berlin, which was occupied by the Allies, the United States, Britain, and France, is going to remain free and democratic, but it's going to survive for almost 45, well over 45 years behind enemy lines, okay? And it's going to be a real sore spot between East and West, and a very hard thing for the Soviets to deal with, okay? 2 incidents I want you to be aware of that deal with Berlin. The Berlin Wall, which was going to be built as a barrier between Soviet-controlled East Berlin and free West Berlin. It's going to try and stop the flood of citizens out of the East to the free West. And it'll be a symbol of the Cold War, of the division and the cruelty of the totalitarian regime in the USSR. And its destruction will be a symbol of the end of the Cold War. All right, West Berlin will have the blockade, the Berlin airlift, in the hopes of either starving out the Berliners or forcing them to leave or provoking a military response. The Soviets will stop all incoming and outgoing traffic from West Berlin, and Harry Truman will respond with an airlift. And we'll go into that in class. Ask me, we do a little math, and I'll show you how often planes are landing and taking off there. All right, I want to put up the whiteboard before I forget. All right, let's see. 1 second. Okay, and get these down. So soon after World War II ended, the Cold War began, almost right after World War II, even maybe before the end. And the Cold War is an uneasy peace marked by a fierce rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union, which is going to last from the end of World War II until the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991. The Cold War is going to set the framework for global politics for 45 years or so, right? It's going to influence American domestic politics, issues inside of the U.S., and the conduct of foreign affairs, those affairs outside of the U.S., and the role of the American government in the economy after 1945. All right, so the Cold War is basically a competition between 2 very different ways of organizing government, society, and the nation's economy. The American-led Western nations believed in democracy, individual freedom, and a free market economic system based on private ownership of property. In contrast, the Soviet Union and its allies believed in a totalitarian government, a dictatorship by a small group, ruled by the Communist Party, and a command economy, where the government tells what and how much is going to be made. End of lecture 10.